The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood! And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Hey, everybody. No one bites.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
There we go. Just waiting for somebody. Well, I'm here. You're here. Mark.
You're here. We're queer. We don't want no bears. No cocaine bears, I'll tell you that much.
None of that. Just none of it. Also joining us for this particular review, we have Alexis Hejna. Alexis, how you doing?
Trying to shut up my Labrador. Sorry about that.
Alexis, let the dog loose. Hoot, 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 hoot. Alexis, let the dog loose. Hoot, hoot, hoot.
I didn't let her loose. She's in the bedroom barking out the bedroom window.
These things happen. Why?
The non sequitur that is my podcast experience on a weekly basis.
What, Mark sings and I have a barking dog.
And then he tries to connect the two.
Oh, look, Zachary is here with us. And as per usual, he will be weighing in with some comedic notes that we will ignore. But thank you, Zachary. We appreciate you being here in whatever crowd you draw.
And let's at least applaud this comment. I bet the movie is better than Morbius.
Oh, low bar to clear. Even my son laughed at that one.
One, low bar. Two, I'm not as sure if that is others are. Anyway, tonight, everyone, we are talking about bait and switch marketing, by which I mean SpiderMan into this across the SpiderVerse, into Across
right.
and Beyond.
SpiderMan Across the SpiderVerse is a 2023 American computer.
No, Mark,
animated...
I beg you, have you seen how long that intro is for this movie?
I'm gonna skip some of it. Like, let me do my thing. I let you do your thing. Let me do my thing, so we can do the thing.
This is me warning you, man. There's like 2 paragraphs of stuff in that.
I
know.
Intro. Relax. I got this. I've been doing podcasting for a little while.
All right. I don't trust your editorial sense.
On Earth 65, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a 2023 American computer animated superhero film featuring the Marvel Comics character Miles Morales, the amazing Spider-Man. And this is a Sony jam in association with Marvel Entertainment. It is the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It was directed by Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson in their feature directorial debuts, featuring a screenplay by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who brought you the Lego movies, and stars, among other people, Shameik Moore, who is also Ray Kwan in, I believe, it's Ray Kwan from the Wu-Tang Clan. Do I have that right? Hang on. Yes, he plays Ray Kwan in Wu-Tang and American Saga, which we reviewed yesterday. So he's quite a lot of gigs here. In addition to an all-star cast, not the least of which are Hailee Steinfeld, Brian Tyree, Mahershala Ali, and Oscar Isaac.
Put serious air quotes around all-star.
Come on, man. I know.
I'll
Seriously,
give you Ali. That's the only one I'll give you.
yeah, it's like, dude, I know you're known for your gruff and why the hell am I here attitude every time, but come on.
So anyway,
I'll give you Mahershala Ali.
so in this one, Miles goes on an adventure with Gwen Stacy across the multiverse where he meets a new team of Spider people known as the Spider Society, led by Miguel O Hara, who is Spider-Man 2099, but comes into conflict with them over handling a new threat. This premiered at the Regency Village Theater in Los Angeles, California on May 30th, 2023, and then was released on my birthday, June 2nd, after having been delayed a bunch. We'll get into the money in a little bit, but it did become the 10th highest grossing film of 2023 so far, and this is part one of two. A third film, Beyond the Spider-Verse, will be released next March 2024 with of course, a female-focused spin-off film in development. One of the things, Alexis, that we were talking about in preparation for the podcast, and a really great reason to have you on here tonight, is the star of this show, truly the leading shining star of this entire affair, is the animation style. And this movie, not the least, it also featured a live action segment, but there were varying art styles, varying animation styles at any given point. Certain characters were drawn different ways. And I wanted to get you to weigh in here about that, about some of the specificity in the styles and what they're called, and what exactly this film was doing with this particular medium of animation.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mentioned this before in the chat. This is the kind of movie that I hope gets studied by art students one day, because it not only is it gorgeous, but there are so many styles, and this is normally a kind of thing that would clash and be hurtful to the eyes. And we actually talked about this briefly with Into the Spider-Verse, that if you're somebody who can't handle this much motion and fast pace and this many styles, and it actually does give you pain, yeah, this movie's not for you. We're sorry. But for me, this was a gorgeous film. I loved, even just various characters had slight differences. I love the idea of the way they go into different universes, and even the backgrounds are just slightly different. I think one of the big ones that stand out, most people are going to recognize, is Hobie Brown, aka Spider-Punk, who was given a very anarchist 1980s cutout style. It reminds me a lot of album covers like God Save the Queen, where they did they purposely did the, I know there's another phrase for it, but I always call it the kidnapping font, where they cut out letters from various styles.
Font, yeah.
Yeah, I always call that, because it always reminds me of those cheesy ransom notes that you see in movies and stuff. Mm-hmm. So you got that. You have lighting differences and various different frame rates, even on minor things with characters like Ben Reilly, aka the Scarlet Spider. You have Ultimate Spider-Man from the animated series popping up, who looks so hilariously out of place. It's great. You have a bit with the 1970s Spider-Man swinging in and even capitalizing on, like, oh, whoops, limited motion, can't really do anything, but still, it's hilarious. And little touches in the background are so gorgeous. I love in Gwen's universe, things have a kind of a fun pastel modern art feel, especially in the backgrounds and the way the lighting changes on her.
Mm-hmm. I got serious impressionistic vibes from her universe. Like there's a very serious. It's not strict impressionism. It's a little bit like you mentioned, more modern. It's kind of like quasi post impressionism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
with a great use of pastel colors, which works so well because that is Spider-Gwen's main color scheme: pink, white, and blue. Very baby blue, I should say. You have the brightness of, oh my god, I'm going to mispronounce it, Mumbattan, Spider-Man India's universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which looks gorgeous. And even at the end, when he ends up in Universe 42, at first you think he's home, but then you go outside and you see a little touches of detail in the buildings. And the fact that the sky itself has kind of a greenish hint to it, which leads you to realize it's not the right universe. So much of that was just so mind-boggling. The level of detail that all of these artists and animators had to put into every single frame.
I am not the art student that you are, professional for that matter, but I do know what I like. And thinking about this movie, I'm thinking actually about excuse me,
Gesundheit. Thinking about sneezing.
Ang Lee's The Hulk, or Ang Lee's Hulk. And you're like, wait, what? No, let me explain. So Ang Lee's Hulk, he was, as a art style, really playing with the idea of what is a comic book. And he, and wanting to make his Hulk movie, playing with the idea of like frames in a comic book and turning pages and different art styles. And I had this argument on Jeff's podcast, the MCU's Bleeding, or now just the Bleeding Edge, where I said there's a lot to not like about Ang Lee's Hulk, but one of the things I really like about the movie is the art style. And while it was almost like an autistic approach to, like, oh, okay, I know how comic books work. I'm going to do this in the movie, and like literally making it like a live action comic book in a way, which didn't always work. I could appreciate what Ang Lee was trying to do. This movie does do that. This movie absolutely plays with the idea of comic book art and how comic books work, and changes it up enough to where it isn't silly looking the way Ang Lee's Hulk was. This instead plays with the idea of an art comic book world, and then builds on that. It goes a bit deeper. The use of color in this movie, Alexis, is pretty amazing, because life often doesn't look the way that this movie does, but this movie, it doesn't look like an acid-induced fever dream.
Sound effects don't pop out of your hands when you thwip pow.
Oh, come on. How awesome would life be if we could get away with that?
But I mean, like,
don't you want to just throw somebody?
The sky purple. I mean, basic shit like that. You don't in the middle of a walk or a conversation with your mom, suddenly, every color of the rainbow fills, your periphery. And that's what I mean by, this movie made excellent use of color in the comic book medium.
See, I was just going to crack a joke there. Talking about, it's like, what, you don't want to chuck a bagel at somebody and the words bagel fly across the screen?
I mean, you can, you have a guy maybe hold up a sign or something. Robert, what were some more of your thoughts regarding the art styles here?
This was not, to me, the technical achievement that the first one was.
Why? What was the difference?
Maybe this is down to the theater I saw it in. But the first one had the differences in style that were used in overlapping set pieces was a lot more stark and a lot more interesting when you know that they're being done at the same time. So one of the things this movie does well, it plays with its setting. The original SpiderVerse is all in the universe of Miles Morales, and we're just trying to figure out what's going on. And consequently, everyone who isn't Miles or Gwen looks a little out of place. And in this one, it's a little bit different. Like, there's a lot that goes on with a lot of this, but anytime you get a big action shot, with the exception of a major exception for our first major set piece with the Renaissance Vulture, for the rest of them, it all kind of looks the same. Like, there's different character designs, and there's some very subtle stuff that's different, but for the most part, like, the lively, kind of very vibrant differences in animation that they played with in the first one is not quite as present here as it was in that one. And I don't know if that's a deliberate artistic choice. I don't know if that was a budgetary thing. I don't know if that was, well, this movie is clearly stretched out because we hacked our story in half in the middle for no good reason. But it's not quite the same technical achievement that I think the first one was.
So you're saying you would have liked more scenes like with the Renaissance Vulture?
Yeah.
because that's alone blew me away. The fact that it's not just on paper cutout, but they actually took the time to add in little notes along the illustration, similar to what you would have seen in one of Da Vinci's sketchbooks.
Mm-hmm. Again, I get it. It's certainly time intensive and labor intensive, and I understand the decision making. There's a reason that even in the first one, like the vast majority of the action is performed by either Miles, Gwen, or Spider-Man, because they're all animated the same way. Anytime they do something, anytime they play around with it, it's harder. That's what makes it so impressive when it works.
Anything else, Alexis, about specific named art styles that you noticed in the movie, that people might not have picked up on?
Let me think. I wish I'd actually listed more of them out. I brought up most of them already. Like I said, this is something that I think would have clashed and looked really ugly and very hard to comprehend in different director's hands. But I do like, and I'll give you this, Robert, it would have been cool to see more in a variety of different styles, although that is labor intensive. But I think the smart move was that in some of the larger fight scenes, for example, when Miles is trying to escape the Spider Society, they focus on most of the Spider people being in the same frame rate and having a similar design, because I think that if they had gone with each character having its own look and feel completely original. I think basically, yes, I'm just imagining that scene from The Simpsons when they watch the Japanese animation and Bart and Lisa have a seizure and fall over. I'm pretty sure it would have looked a lot like that.
So I want to talk a little bit about Joaquim Dos Santos. He's one of the directors on this, but I think he was the lead, and I'm fairly certain he was, I can't remember if he worked on the first Spider-Man or not, but I think this is interesting. He's a Portuguese-American animator, storyboard artist, director, producer, and writer. He is best known for his directing work on the television series Justice League Unlimited, Avatar: The Last Airbender, G.I. Joe Resolute, The Legend of Korra, and Voltron: Legendary Defender. So,
I've seen 4 of those 5 series. Those are all pinnacles of animation.
Right, that's what...
I'm not going to get into it. That's a
Voltron Legendary Defender. Robert Cooper and I, and actually Robert, you kind of tagged in at the end.
Me, you didn't. Bull. From season 1, that was me.
It wasn't from season 1. I started with Cooper, and he bailed like halfway through.
No. Again, you started season 1 that was supposed to be done with Cooper. He couldn't make it. You said, "Hey, help!" So I watched it, and I'm on the season 1 review. Every season, that's me. Don't bury me under. No. You don't get to rewrite history, man.
I feel like I need to go back and listen to some of this. I don't feel like
go ahead. I'm there. I'm there the whole time.
Okay.
Wow. All these years, all of these subjects, and that's what pisses Robert off enough to start yelling at you.
I'm just now realizing that like last week it was Cruella, where he's like, first of all, this is me talking to my wife. Only he's me. Okay, like you're remembering history wrong and like stomping your feet and throwing things because let's go back. We need to go back to the court stenographer. I really do wish like I had like the Black Mirror like recording eye things just to settle these arguments. But the point is, this is a guy who's
okay. Look, if you want to, go ahead and look it up. You can look it up right now.
No, that's okay. We're in the middle of a show, Melissa.
Look, man, I was there. Every season because Coop bailed after the first season. Like he showed up to the review halfway through it because he was running late. And you were like, "Please, Robert Winfree, save me." And I said, "Sure."
Okay, Superman. Anyway, Joaquim Dos Santos, clearly animation is his jam.
Yeah.
And this feels like a passion project of his. And I think the movie very much comes off that way. That being said, unless we've got anything else about the art style specifically, let's get into the plot synopsis.
All right. So our movie opens with Spider-Gwen on Earth, whatever. No one cares. She is dealing with trying to be the Spider-Woman of her location, and her father is the police chief, and he's trying to find Spider-Man because Spider-Man killed their version of Peter Parker. Sort of. after Peter Parker turned into the Lizard and attacked a high school prom, and Spider-Gwen saved the day, and unfortunately in the course of that, Peter died. And now Captain Stacy is like, I will bring Spider-Man to justice. Or Spider-Woman to justice, because of course. And she's struggling with that. And then the Vulture shows up at the Guggenheim. And it's not the normal Vulture. This one is written on parchment paper in weird line art, because this is a different universe. A different universe is Adrian Toombs, pulled through a magical portal. And as she's fighting him, and it's kind of going not so great, here comes Miguel O Hara, who crashes the party and is like, well, you're dealing with the multiverse, and this is kind of my jam.
But he says it a lot more angrily because Miguel O'Hara has such a giant chip on his shoulder, it's practically formed a whole potato.
No chill. Zero chill in Miguel O'Hara. And he shows up and they start fighting the Vulture together, and it still doesn't go well. So he says, please send help. And in comes our Lord and Savior, pregnant black female Jesus.
Otherwise known as Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman.
On a motorcycle. And between the three of them, they're able to subdue this version of the Vulture. But as they do so, Captain Tracy shows up and is able to nearly arrest Spider-Gwen, and Gwen Stacy takes off the mask and goes, Dad, it's me. And he goes, you're still under arrest. And she goes, really? And like any sullen teenager, pieces out, and she dives through an interdimensional portal with the people she just met. After that, we cut back to Miles Morales, where, stop me if you've heard this one before, he is struggling to balance the perils of being Spider-Man and a 15-year-old boy. His parents are trying to start looking at his college applications, and he's doing the Spider-Man thing. And then there's the Spot, Mark. The Spot. I feel like they deliberately chose about the memeiest Spider-Man villain they could for this.
I think it actually works really well to balance out everything else that's going on. I mean,
if they're gonna pick a character whose whole thing is jumping dimensions and really making some hay out of this multiverse idea, the Spot was fine. Because anybody else, if it's like the Hobgoblin, it feels a little forced.
I'm just saying, man.
Even though the Hobgoblin does have the ability to jump dimensions in certain iterations of the comics and in the animated
another iteration,
series.
he was a fucking bank robber with a goofy Halloween mask. Look, my point is that they were looking for a character they hadn't used 97 different times. Also, would be the closest to making sense and jumping portals and looks cool as like a living portal. Again, not a whole lot of Spider-Man Rogues Gallery fit that bill. I thought he was fine.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
So Miles tries to deal with the Spot, but it's a Spot. You can't ever get it out, Mark.
No, that damn Spot. It's not my Spot.
Thank God they never actually used that line in the movie.
I desperately was waiting for Hulk Hogan to show up and go, it's not my Spot, brother.
No, I was hoping you'd figure out that I was doing the Arn Anderson bit. It's not my Spot. It's your Spot. It's not an ink Spot. Or it would be Kevin Nash doing Arn Anderson.
Okay.
You come on, from Nitro.
Now that you reference it specifically, yes, I get what you're doing.
No, you would pick that up faster. Moving on.
It's Kevin Nash. I tried very hard to forget him.
Well, what you should say was it's a 30-year-old Nitro bit. Move on.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
What she said.
So NXT has been on the air longer than Nitro was now. Just to make you feel old.
I'm hitting that button every time you guys get derailed talking about wrestling.
The fuck? I stopped already. Jesus.
So Miles tries to deal with the Spot. This doesn't really work because, again, you can't kill the meme, Mark. It's viral. Once it goes viral, it's the internet. It never goes away.
Again, talking about the animation, though, it is impressive the layout that you have, that every time Miles lands a punch, it comes out somewhere else. Again, this is a fight scene that needed so much planning to make it work.
The planning, the choreography, the layout for that, truly spectacular. Eventually, this all goes sideways when the Spot kicks his own butt into one of his own portals, and he kind of winds up sucked into himself. Rather than transform into a singularity, he winds up in the dimension between dimensions and uses different spots to look into different iterations of the universe, and he harasses the nice Chinese lady from the Venom movies. Then he breaks into the Lego universe.
That was hilarious.
That was good. I legit laughed at that.
You are easily amused.
Oh, I legit laughed that they actually used dialogue from J.K. Simmons from Spider-Man 2. Hey, come on. Every time we heard J. Jonah Jameson in this movie in any universe, it was only one voice.
There's only one. There is only one J. Jonah Jameson until J.K. Simmons is too old to do it.
And even then, we can use AI and deep fake it.
That depends entirely on the outcome of the upcoming strike from the SAG.
That's exactly why I made that joke.
Come on, guys.
So, he appears in newsprint. He sticks his face into the old Spider-Man newsprint comic at one point. And he realizes, oh, I can travel between dimensions. This will be fun. And then he comes back and he goes, oh, man, I'm out of spots. Now I'm just a white guy without a face. And someone else in the area yells, stop talking about your holes. You're making us uncomfortable. And Mark, I'm sure, chuckled.
Very much so.
So he decides to build a
Sorry,
mini...
I'm just a white guy without a face. Like, aren't we all in the year of our Lord 2023? Now you can continue.
So he decides to build a mini collider and use that to recharge himself, and then he will go on his merry way. Miles is still not getting along with his parents because he's a teenage boy. And then Gwen shows up because she's been given an assignment. Something wonky is going on with the Spot, and it's multiversal, and keep an eye on him, stop him, and then, we'll all move on and be happy. But she decides to go see Miles because they're friends. So
and
they
she figures, hey, I'm in this universe. Might as well stop in and say, come on, anytime you're in the town where your parents are, you're like, might as well stop in and say hello.
I really shouldn't pull the lever on the wall for the super happy fun slide, but when am I going to be here again? And this ultimately means that the Spot gets away with his dastardly crime. He creates his mini collider, he recharges himself, and he begins hopping through universes as Gwen realizes how badly she screwed up. She confesses to Jessica about all the things that are going on here, and Miles overhears all this while camouflaged because he's got electrical power and he's camouflaged and he'll sprout wings in a little bit and just all the powers. He's the bestest.
The camouflage and the Venom strikes were previously set up in the first movie, and they are canon.
I'm aware. So is his electric sword now. That's a thing in the comics.
Yeah, we'll probably see it in the next movie.
And it's going to be just as dumb there.
Yeah, are we almost done here?
So he dives through the interdimensional portal after Gwen because he just had a fight with his parents and is like, there's stuff going on. I've got angst. I'm a teenager. I have angst. They all show up at the Nuevo York. No, sorry. This is when they go to, after the Spot again, this is when they go to an alternate version where Indians, the Indians, not the Native American Indians, colonized New York, and now...
It's dot Indians, not feather Indians. Get it?
Okay.
Oh, good God.
And they show up at Mumbai, sort of. It's what New York's become, because overpopulation and overcrowding. It's just funny. And while there, they meet this version of Spider-Man, and everything's going great for him because he's very young in his Spider-Man career, and we all know that tragedy must strike. But no, Mark, because Miles is here, and much like Ray, will fix everything. So there's the Spot. They're not able to stop the Spot. He's just too powerful. He sets off this collider that's in this version and recharges himself, and he becomes the anti-Spot. He was white, now he's black. Transracial, much like Mark over there. And he warned Spider-Man, I am going to take everything you love, and then he bamfs out. and bad things happen. A building starts falling onto a suspension bridge, and we are warned. Well, Spider-Gwen is warned. Hey, something important's going to happen. Don't screw it up. He goes, yeah, I gotcha. And our intrepid Spider-Man from this universe tries to stop a bus from falling off the bridge. At the same time, there's the police chief captain of his girlfriend is about to be crushed by a rock, and normally this is an important moment for Spider-Man. But again, Miles is here to screw everything up. So he saves the police chief, meaning that this Spider-Man has it all. Everything good. Everything's going good for him.
And then his universe is starting to slowly
his
disappear.
And this destabilizes his very reality. So Miguel O Hara and a bunch of other Spider people show up and go, well, you done screwed up again. Now we got to try and contain this anomaly. Hope we can. He grabs everybody else and takes them to Nuevo York in the year 2099, where he leads the Society of Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse, making sure bad things don't happen. And we see a billion variations on Spider-Man.
When this thing comes out on Blu-ray, we are going to be flooded with YouTube videos of everyone pointing out every single Spider-Man incarnation in these scenes.
Look, I got my 5 sec. I got my like 3 frames of Bagman. I'm happy.
So what happens next, Robert?
So while there, it's explained to him that there's Spider-Man all over the multiverse. And we're all bound together by certain events. There's certain things that just seem to happen to Spider-Man no matter where they are. You got a dead uncle. You got a dead police captain. You probably got a dead... Your first girlfriend, that first relationship, that probably goes real bad. And this is just how it goes. And it's important that these things happen because these things bind us together. These are the metaphysical ties that keep everything from falling apart. And Miles goes, wait a minute, my dad's about to become a police chief. And Gwen's my girlfriend. This isn't going to go badly for me, is it? I already have the dead uncle. Do I have to have more tragedy? And loser Peter Parker from the first one shows up and goes, yeah, it's not the worst thing. Look, I brought my kid to this highly volatile situation. Toddler, introduced to action sequence. What could possibly go wrong?
But she's adorable and then like a baby Bjorn.
And actually, a canon character, Mayday Parker, goes on to become Spider-Girl.
And has a knitted cap. And that I mentioned she's adorable, so it's okay. Look, we know from the Fast and Furious movies, if the child is adorable and is part of a cool action scene, it's okay to put a child in danger.
It was not okay then. It is not okay now.
Crapping on the establishment. I salute you.
Although this would explain Mark's pedestrian lifestyle.
I'm so tired.
I'm just waiting for anyone to realize they were insulted there.
You don't wrap this up in like another 2 minutes. I may fall asleep.
I know. So Miles like, no, but I can go save my dad. And Miguel O Hara goes, did you literally not just see what happened? Yeah, see how this works? I just explained it to you. What's your problem? And they lock him up and he escapes. And he goes on we get a great big chase across Nuevo York. Ultimately, this leads to Miles going back. During the course of the chase, Miguel grabs him and goes, all right, I've had enough of you. Because no one else will tell you the truth. I will tell you the truth. You're a mistake. You are just a giant cosmic mistake. You see, the radioactive spider that bit you was pulled from another universe. Universe 42.
Which explains why that spider was glitching in the first movie. Little touch that I don't think a lot of people picked up on when they saw that.
And that means that there's another universe without a Spider-Man to protect them. And you shouldn't have been in that entire situation to begin with. Your universe's Spider-Man should have been fine. Should have stopped the collider from going off that Kingpin set off, which caused all of this mess in the first place. You ruined my life. I wish I'd had an abortion. This is the subtext of what's going on here.
Although technically shouldn't have been the Spot ruined Miguel's life, because when he was Dr. Ohm, and that is the Spot's real name, he was the scientist who pulled the spider through the collider, through the parallel universe. And
Look, we're going to discover in the next movie that this is actually all Miguel O'Hara's fault somehow. I don't know exactly how, but it's going to be his fault.
What happens
And
next, Robert?
well, Miles ignores all of this and decides he wants to go home and save his dad. So he goes back to their magical go home butt machine. He climbs into it. It scans his DNA and it sends him somewhere else.
Because it scanned the venom from the spider that bit him, not his actual DNA, which admittedly, I don't know how the machine goofs up that badly, but it still leads to a cool twist.
Sort of. He gets sent to Earth 42, where he decides to try and go find his parents and talk to them. Gwen and Peter have decided they're kind of on Miles' side here for the civil spider war. And so Miguel sends, he kicks Gwen out of the society and sends her back home. Then everyone else goes to Miles' home universe to try and find him and stop him from doing anything stupid, like threaten reality.
Well, it's Miguel, Jessica Drew, and your favorite character, Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider.
I have a soft spot for that character, as dumb as he is, because he was kind of the lead for there's a brief period of time when I bought a very small handful of comics. It was actually during the Clone Saga of Spider-Man, which is it's somewhat infamous. It's not quite One More Day, but it's up there. And he was kind of the lead for that one because Ben Reilly's just a clone of Peter Parker. Anyway, so yeah, they go there to look for him. Gwen goes back to her world and makes up with her father, who decides to abandon his career. And who knows what's going to happen next over there, because she also gets another watch that lets her travel between dimensions that was left by Hobie, who stopped by briefly. And so she goes to Miles' home universe and realizes, oh, he's not here. He's in the wrong universe. Then we cut over to Miles, and he's in his universe talking with his mother. And his uncle shows up, the one who died. And there's something going on, and he gets let out onto the rooftop, and that's when he realizes, oh, this is not my universe. Everything's wrong. There's sirens going off and a bunch of fires, and there's the news talking about the Sinister Six being around. Even this does raise something of an interesting question. If there is no Spider-Man, how many of those villains that he created don't actually show up? But now we got the whole Sinister Six here, so why not?
Well, in all due respect, there is not enough time in this podcast to discuss that. There is a really lengthy discussion, and I know we're not the first ones to even consider having it because YouTube's going to be flooded with that. But there is an interesting way to look at some of the members. Again, I don't think it's the exact Sinister Six that we are familiar with that would have been created through Spider-Man's interactions, like a Scorpion or a Doc Ock or whatever, or the Lizard. But there is an interesting discussion to be had there on how they could be created without Peter Parker's involvement.
So, right about then, Miles Morales gets clocked in the face. Gwen goes to recruit all the other allies that Miles has gathered. So that's her. That's Indian Spider-Man. Peter Parker, who again brings his daughter. He goes home, talks with his wife, and she says, did you take the infant into a dangerous situation? And then Gwen shows up and is like, hey, Miles needs our help. And he looks at the infant in the crib like, I clearly can't trust you with your mother, who must be just the world's worst person if I'm going to bring you along with me to this.
There's also Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Punk Hobie, Spider-Pig is back.
We get the same group from the first Spider-Verse movie plus Hobie, and that's kind of it.
Hobie, Spider-Man India, and Spider-Bite is also there. Okay. Another new character.
Oh, right. The Cortana wannabe.
Well, she's basically an avatar from a digital universe, and admittedly, she looks really cool. She doesn't look a lot like she does in the comics, but I love the glow that she has being an avatar. It's a nice touch.
All right.
Well, they all decide they're going to start looking for Miles, even though they're not entirely sure where he wound up. And Miles is kidnapped by his uncle, and he tries to appeal to his uncle's because his father is dead in this universe.
All right, since we're really good about interrupting with random facts and statements. I have one. I'm going to interrupt you right before the very end of your plot synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
This seems to be an ongoing thing that we do. Was that Craven the Hunter? Was that the uncle? Was the uncle supposed to be Craven?
No,
No.
he's the Prowler.
I thought Miles was the Prowler.
Miles is in this universe. In the regular universe, his uncle is
The uncle that is
Ben Davis.
beating on him as he's tied to a heavy bag.
I
Yes.
don't
That's out of
Yeah.
the way, and Miles that enters the frame and takes off his mask and says, "It was me, James. I was the author of all your pain."
No, he's not Craven. It's still the Prowler. That's Ben Davis.
I think
Aaron
Aaron
Davis.
in Universe 42 is essentially just assistant to the Prowler, for a lack of
Yeah.
better
Okay,
words.
thank you. That's the answer to my question.
He's
looked
not Craven.
for the third time. Thank you. Because he's got like the puffy collar thing going, and because he's all in shadow and you can't really tell what he is or what he's doing. I was like, oh, at first I was like, okay, it's the Prowler in this universe too. And then he kind of steps out of the way. Miles comes into frame, does the whole bit with the mask, and he's like, but I'm the Prowler. And so I was like, okay, now all I can see is big dude with puffy collar, the kind of the one that the Craven would wear, which is how I jumped to that conclusion. But you guys are insisting he's just a sidekick.
He's basically Q.
Okay. All right, you done with the plot synopsis?
So then we cut, Mark, right as the X-Wings are leaving the Rebel planet to go attack the Death Star. The other Spider people are going to come after Miles. Miles is about to break out of his chains and throw down with this alternate version of himself, who's kind of a douchebag. And see you in a year.
Okay.
To be continued.
To be continued. All right. Go ahead, Alexis. I know of all the movies we've talked about this year that you've been a part of, this is probably the most you have to say, and I would be remiss if I got in your way. So please take as much time as you need to gush about this movie.
Yeah, I absolutely loved this film. Had a total blast watching it. My husband and I went to see it on premiere night, and he's not even as big of a comic book nerd or an animation nerd as I am. I mean, who is? But even he was talking about how great the animation was in this movie and how gorgeous it was to look at and how much fun he had. He admittedly didn't think it should be a two-parter, and he thought that they should have resolved up a little bit more with the spot before the end of the film. So that's his thing, and I have no qualms against someone thinking that. But yeah, I cannot get over how much I enjoy this movie. We talked before about the various animation styles and how gorgeous this is, because the art nerd in me could not just hold still watching this. I was geeking out over and over again about all the different styles coming together and how great it looked. I loved all the voice acting in this. I think my only complaint I had was during Spider-Punk's intro speech. I couldn't make out half of what he was saying.
And me
And I was
too.
like,
That might as well have been in subtitles.
You people just.
yeah, sorry. I am very much so spoiled by subtitles. It's what happens when you own a dog who barks too much. I admit that I am not massively familiar with a lot of the various characters. I even asked in the chat, I was like, so has Miguel O Hara always been this big of an asshat? Because my only introduction to him was a couple of comic panels and the video they did on him from Death Battle, where they had him fight Terry McGinnis, aka Batman Beyond. And yeah, I was converted like, yeah, Miguel O Hara, as you put it, Robert, has no chill, has never had chill, and is incapable of having chill. He has always had a giant stick twisted up his ass.
Well, if you're half interested in the character's origin, he's a scientist of some variety, because they all are, working for one of the big Uber corporations that run the world.
Alchemex.
Yeah. He is dosed against his will with a drug that makes you horribly dependent upon it.
And the drug is only produced by Alchemex, so that's their way of saying, well, because he was about to quit his job.
So he got drugged with Oxycontin.
It's
I was going to call it Slurm.
I appreciate both of your references.
He's
drugged with
addictive.
He's drugged with something, and it gives him physical mutations. That's why he That's why he does the stuff that he does, including threatening to bite that one guy at one point because he has a spider bite. He will bite you and poison you.
Well, paralyzing. It's a paralyzing bite, not a death. But he also has talons on his fingers and toes because he can't actually wall climb the way Spider-Man can. He uses the talons to climb up everything.
So he's dealing with a lot of physical changes, and then that position winds up letting him see how much the mega corporations are ruining the world. So he starts fighting against them, and he's very much from it's not a full-on grimdark universe, but it's a very depressing place. And he was very atypical of Spider-Man presentations.
Okay, what else, Alexis?
Love the humor, loved the craziness of the scenes with all the spider people. Again, this could have been overwhelming. This could have been just they threw too much at the camera and I am having a seizure because I can't tell what's going on. But it is so much fun. For God's sakes, we have a fight scene with Spider-Cat and Spider-Rex. And I think at that point, actually, Andre looked over at me and like, hey, I got nothing on that. I didn't even know there was a Spider T-Rex. I had nothing on that one.
Right.
Like I said, it's fun. It's I think the humor lands. Hell, even half the dialogue was Spot lands. I love how they build the fact that it's the bagel guy. It's the bagel guy from the first movie. That killed me. And I love that his main thing is it's not really megalomaniacal. He blames Spider-Man, and when Spider-Man basically says, he's just a villain of the week, Spot's like, I am not a villain of the week, and I'm going to show you that I am not a villain of the week. I actually kind of go for that motivation in a character. I think it's kind of an interesting idea.
I don't have a lot to say. The movie looks gorgeous. I don't want to rehash everything that we've already said. It's the star of the show. It's other than Spider-Man being, the most popular character in all of superherodom besides Superman. It's the reason you go see this movie. It is truly unique, not just in the world of animation, but in the world of film at large. Not a lot of things look like this. Very few, as a matter of fact. Maybe Mandy, but with Nicolas Cage. But it. In terms of like purple.
Those are so. If you've never seen someone try a chainsaw fight in real life, they're so disappointing because both the changes break immediately.
So, but I do have a couple of craft issues, and I'm gonna turn it over to Robert. Look, this thing's gonna end up being like 6 hours long because the next one's gonna be 3 hours. So here, I don't mind the fact that this was supposed to be a 2-part story, but having a story to fill your runtime, this doesn't. Now, one of the positive things I have to say about that is they use that runtime. They use 2 hours and 20 minutes to tell a character piece. They really get into who Spider-Gwen is, why Spider-Gwen is, and what's motivating her to make some of the decisions, not all of which are good decisions, that she does. They spend a lot of time on Miles' struggle with being Spider-Man, on, I'll tell you what, probably the best part of this movie for me, because I'm an adult and look, everyone can sort of, and I'm not taking anything away from Alexis or anyone else like this. The fight with him running away from 97 zillion Spider-Men, that's great. That's great for all you people who enjoy that sort of thing. The thing that got me, the thing that I keyed into was the speech from his mom about it is hard to watch your baby grow up into a young man and do young man things when you want to hold on forever to your baby. Like that whole give and take between Miles and his mom and the tacit recognition that all of our babies must grow up and leave the nest at some point. That's what resonated with me. None of the rest of this movie really did. Some of the stuff with Gwen, maybe a little bit, but really the parts that I keyed into was that dynamic between his mom and Miles and the inherent struggles therein. With all of this craziness in this movie, that's the part that seemed most relatable and most real to me, and so that's the part that I enjoyed. My only issue with any of that, though, is it takes up like 2/3 of the movie. It felt like getting Gwen and getting Miles to the action outside of a few brief fight sequences, seemed like it took forever. And it's in a drama, it wouldn't bother me. And what's supposed to be an animated feature for children, and for children in adult bodies, I did kind of question the wisdom of doing it this way. I'm sitting there, like, we were thinking about like The Little Mermaid and how, like, we know that kids were like checking out in the first hour of this. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Most kids aren't making it past 2 hours if you're lucky, and 90 minutes is the sweet spot. 2 hours and 20 minutes is a lot to ask of your audience that's going to see this. And then it's a lot to ask of them to sit there and watch Miles mope about, what it is to have this enormous burden, keeping secrets from your parents. Your parents don't understand you. And oh, by the way, on top of all that, even if you didn't have it, you're still a 15-year-old boy. It's one of those where I see what they were going for in trying to make this for both children and adults, but this doesn't seem like it's a movie for children outside of that one action sequence where he's running from all the Spider-Men. And maybe that's all anyone cares about, but boy, does it take a long time to get there. This is not a particularly well-paced movie. It is like backloaded to the extreme, and it takes forever to get to that back end. I was thinking, I went to dinner with my parents tonight, and my father and I were talking about this movie, and I'm like, this was kind of like Dune in two ways. One, they didn't greenlight Dune 2 until they knew Dune 1 was a success, which means they ended Dune where they did, figuring, well, if this bombs, this is a fine enough place to end the story, which is midway through the book, or midway through the story.
Yeah.
So if you're Carol and you don't know that the Lord of the Rings is a trilogy, if you're not, does he ever get rid of the ring? Shut up. I'm sorry I brought you. True story. If you don't know this is a two-part,
including
movie,
the physical assault.
if you don't know if you don't know this is a two-part story and you're only getting part one right now, you have to be asking yourself at about the 2-hour mark, what the fuck is happening in this movie? Why aren't we resolving anything? And then, the cliffhanger ending, my kids reacted viscerally to, because they didn't know it was I knew it was, so I wasn't surprised. But my kids are just like, wait, how could you leave it there? Like, because there's still a whole other movie to go. And this is something that definitely needs addressing, and I kind of want to let Robert tag in to deal with it. But like, this movie we talked about before the podcast started wasn't marketed particularly well, in the sense of this is part one of a two-part story. You're led to believe with the marketing that this is a self-contained story, and it's not, and it's certainly not paced that way. Like, this is the longest first act in animation history. It's like an hour and a half long. That's just the first act. First act is 10 to 30 minutes usually. So the other comparison to Dune was how slowly, I mean, Dune's great, but like how slowly paced that movie was, and how like they kind of had to force a exciting conclusion because they knew they weren't done with the story, but they had to end the movie somehow. And if they weren't doing a second one, it had to end. It had to be resolved in some way, and so they were hedging their bets. So Dune's ending kind of falls off a cliff. So does this one. I know you're dying to say something. Go ahead, Robert.
No. Normally, when you do the middle of a trilogy, one, you'd like to let everyone know that's what you're doing. Like, this is my biggest gripe with one of my big gripes with this. One of the other reviewers I watch, it's a group of them. In this group, in their review, they were pretty pissed, and one of them said, like, yeah, because this is an incomplete film. This is an unfinished movie in that respect. And I'm going to echo his sentiment here. I'd have been perfectly fine with that if you'd told me that's what I was getting.
Or you have to do it kind of like, I'm going to go back to Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings ends with the Fellowship being broken up after a big fight with the Uruk-hai, and Frodo deciding this ring's going to be the death of us if I don't go off on my own. And Sam goes, right, we should go off on our own. It's a satisfying, Boromir makes the heroic sacrifice. Aragorn
here's the other thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
You want an emotionally satisfying break. Like, there's a reason that, again, all of the Lord of the Rings movie, the first two, like, again, you mentioned where Fellowship ends. Two Towers ends after the Battle of Helm's Deep. It doesn't
Yeah,
end
it took the
as
words
the
out of my
orcs are
mouth.
charging.
Right. So it's like so again, you have resolution. You know the story's not over. The story is over when Frodo, throws the ring into the fires of Mount Doom. However, each individual part ends with a satisfying emotional conclusion. Something is resolved. The Fellowship breaks up. Helm's Deep is saved. And then the third part of the movie fucking ends. The whole trilogy ends. Even like Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back ends with a cliffhanger. Han gets taken away by Boba Fett, and they're headed to Jabba's palace. But Luke still has a confrontation with Vader. Vader has the big reveal, Luke, I am your father. And Luke goes, well, I'm not going to turn to the dark side, so I'm going to yeet myself off the space station. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. So, so we have our satisfying conclusion with Luke and Vader, but we also have a stinger with Han.
Let me give you another example of a movie that is, and always was, expressly part of a trilogy. Back to the Future Part 2 ends with them resolving the issue with Biff and the fractured timeline.
Right.
And then we get our stinger with Marty going up to Doc and going, you're the only one who can help me. And we know that, the third part is coming.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have a satisfactory conclusion to the tension and the narrative that was going on throughout this chapter.
This literally resolves nothing. It just stops. It's like if you'd gone to the theater, this would be where the intermission is. Everyone pisses and gets popcorn. Come back for the second half.
Yeah,
it's basically the Matrix trilogy.
Even the Matrix 2 resolved the problem in the inherent in that movie.
Yeah,
and just they had the figure for the next one.
Yeah, it was like, hey, go take this key to this door and open it and go do the thing. And here's the architect, and he presents the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was either save the world or save Trinity, and he does a Batman and does both. And then
he saves Trinity.
Well, yeah, he saves Trinity, and then it's like the movie Matrix 2 ends with him saving Trinity. Matrix 3 starts with the attack on Poseidon, whatever the fuck the name of the Zion, yeah, and him turning into Luke Skywalker and then fainting. That is the beginning of part 3. It just happens to be at the end of part 2. Part 2 ends with him saving Trinity. If you were going to do this story, that's the way that you structure your ending. So whatever the tension is, and you can make the argument that, well, this one is not really Miles' story. It's Gwen's story, and her story is resolved when she makes up with her father.
Well, and the next one's going to be more Gwen's story than this one was.
But that's my point.
I've seen the rumblings.
You guys did see that we're getting a Gwen Stacy spinoff, right?
Yeah, I really am trying to not throw semen at my computer right now because of that.
Yeah,
it's look. Vin Diesel wants a Toretto family spinoff from the Fast franchise, like the main character getting a spinoff. What a novel concept.
Yeah, I'm about overhaul. And lack of ideas. My point is,
I've been here for a while.
I know. I've just came to the party. I brought buffalo dip. Please shut up. Don't tell me you don't like buffalo dip. And spend an hour telling me this. Nope. I
don't know. I don't think I've ever had it.
Okay, good. Anyway, so I can move this on because I'm sure Alexis is now turning into me going, is he ever gonna get off this point? They needed to fatten up the Gwen Stacy stuff. If the resolution of part 2 was Gwen Stacy mending fences with her dad.
Yeah.
That's not strong enough to carry your narrative. And the Miles stuff, it didn't get resolved at all. The Miles stuff ended midstream. It's a major problem with this movie. Other than that, like I said, like the pacing is way off on this thing. It's too backloaded. But outside of that, like I'm not gonna sit here and take away anyone's enjoyment of this movie. Even if I hadn't been exhausted, it still would have been a struggle for me to get through because I didn't think this was that interesting of a story. That's my last criticism. I don't think the narrative, the plot of this thing is particularly engaging. This is the last thing I'll say on this. In metaphor,
the first 30 minutes feels like something out of the CW.
This is the prettiest dumb girl I've seen in quite some time. It is gorgeous, but it couldn't be more fucking shallow and vapid.
It's a fighter working the speed bag.
All right, you're up, kiddo.
I'm just gonna echo a lot of what was said. Visually, this is like you said, the gorgeous movie. The art and the art direction and all of that is the star of this thing, hands down, million miles. Loved it. Loved that aspect of it. This movie is, to Mark's point, poorly paced. The point where they chose to cut off was, I get half of what they were going for. Like, because how many comic books end on a cliffhanger like this? Like, I get it. But
Comic books are not movies.
one, yeah, comic books aren't movies. Two, even most comics have, like, there's still resolution of some variety, book to book, and there's none of that here. That's a problem. And there's some weird character choices, like they're trying to backfill Gwen and Miles' relationship in some respects. Miles in the original was very drawn to Gwen right away. She was a little more standoffish for pretty much that entire movie.
Yeah, she was a busy businesswoman who didn't need no man.
And then,
Well, she was in the wrong universe. She was basically going like, yeah, nice to meet you. I need to figure out what the hell's going on here.
and
To your point, I'm going to echo your point, Alexis. She may have wanted to be more intimate with Miles, but she was like, I can't be here. I'm going to glitch and die. So I got to go.
Then that needs to be addressed. Like, then part of her monologue needs to be, I really wish we'd had more time. Or the circumstance, like that, because the way this
we are literally from two different universes. This isn't going to happen.
Because the way this comes across, it's like they immediately fell in love with each other, and now they're just pining for each other across universes, like star-crossed lovers, and that's not really borne out film to film. Again, it's a little bit of backfilling, and
I don't really get the star-crossed lovers thing. I'm sorry. Can I have a moment, guys?
Sure.
I felt more just the idea that these are two people who really are going to have trouble relating what they're going through with others. This isn't the sort of thing you can just sit down at the coffee shop with other people and say, like, oh yeah, you're not going to believe what I went through with my weekend. She and Miles have bonded. And I'm not saying it's like, oh, they love each other. No, they're friends. They are incredibly strong friends.
I think you're half right.
I guess I read a little bit more of that because this is something I actually deal with. Not the cross-dimensional thing, obviously.
Really? Who from another universe are you in love with?
Hilarious. No, as someone who travels for a living, it is very hard that majority of my friends, the people that I consider my closest of close friends, do not live in my state. They don't even live in my state.
True, I live in Tampa.
Love you too, Mark. But it's very hard for people because it's like these are the people that I identify with. These are the people who know what I'm going through, and I get to see them maybe once a year if I'm lucky. Right. So the fact that these two are talking about how much they want to be together just because they actually can bond and share the same story and share, the same experiences. That's what I got more out of it because I know that feeling.
Okay, I think you're half right, and here's my evidence of that. Miles is all puppy love for Gwen. Gwen is a pretty girl who paid attention to him. She now owns him forever. That is how boys work. However,
hang on. That's how teenage boys work.
Yes, that's how teenage boys work. And this is the part that I think you're right about. She's like, no. I don't have romantic feelings for you. You are, however, a young Spider-Man overwhelmed with your circumstances. I am a young Spider-Man overwhelmed with my own circumstances. And you are somebody I can talk to about this because you know what I'm going through. And so, yes, to put it in modern parlance, she friend-zoned him immediately. He, however, was drawing sketches of her in a book. That kid is absolutely in love with her, but it's young.
I believe the current parlance from the young folk is down bad.
I don't understand a word of what you just said, sir, and I'm going to need you to get off my lawn.
But
You
yeah,
knew-
you see, I
you
feel
knew
like you see a
of those
lot more
words.
of that with Gwen, with her opening monologue, and the fact that her father is launching this whole campaign thing against her, doesn't realize it. So she really feels even more alone. She wants
You know-
to reach out to somebody who understands what she's going through.
Well,
That's why
the
she lights
hilarious
up.
thing is the different perspectives, because like you're relating to Gwen and kind of projecting your own stuff on there. That's what I was doing with Miles, because I've been Miles. I have been absolutely just like over the moon obsessed with a pretty girl who paid attention to me, and that girl could not have friend zoned me more. And like even just like the following her around as she's like wandering around his room, and then
I promise my dorm room's a lot cooler.
and then goes out the
That was
window,
funny.
and and he's still like following her and whatever, and he'd have, if she had led him, he'd have walked into the sun, because he's got hard eyes for her. And meanwhile, like you said, Alexis, she's just like, no, you're just somebody I can talk to. You're just my best friend. You're the bestest of friends, but that's all you are. And he's like, shit, how did I end up in the LP called Friend Zone, floating through space with Zod? Anyway,
For what it's worth, I think it is interesting that people can watch this movie and identify with two separate characters and read two versions. I mean, that's why I saw so much in the scene in the Guggenheim when Miguel and Jessica show up, and just Gwen's reaction to seeing it's like, it's not just other spider people, it's another Spider Woman like me. Just like she is over the moon, ecstatic that she's not alone
I believe
anymore.
she requests adoption.
Yeah, it's like, will you adopt me? It's like, again, I love that scene.
all right,
but
Robert, an hour and a half ago, we cut you off. Go.
No, you're fine. So, again, there's a little bit of backfilling going on there that I'm not the biggest fan of, but they're not doing it illogically either, so credit to them. I think here's my other thing with this movie, and maybe I hate to phrase it this way. I don't know if I'm the only one picking this up, because I haven't seen a lot of people express what I'm about to express. So bear with me. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll just fine. I've kind of had it with angry movies. And there's a lot of this movie that's angry. A lot of the writing.
You gotta give me some examples.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
What is Miguel O'Hara's deal?
Was that rhetorical, or are you waiting for an answer?
No. What?
well,
what's his
are
deal?
we going to go over his speech about he saw what happened when he tried to, screw over another universe?
No. You're looking at this wrong. What is he trying to protect?
Give us the answer.
What is he trying to protect?
I don't know, Robert. What is he trying to protect?
Canon.
I
He's
see
trying
what
to
you're
protect
saying.
the canon.
You're saying that this is meta angry. This is comic book fans being pissed at the movie industry or whatever.
No. This is current generation being pissed at a generation of comic fans. There's a giant chunk of the dialogue
okay, I see what you're saying.
Miguel throws at Miles.
Mm-hmm.
That is taken.
Sorry, this is everyone that works at Lucasfilm being angry at Star Wars fans.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Different studio, but that's the spirit of it.
No, that's what I said. I needed a metaphor that works for the situation that everybody else can understand, because I wasn't totally getting it either. But the current antagonism between the Force's female writing crew and everyone that's ever watched a Star Wars movie, and how much they fucking hate each other and how much resentment there is.
Look, we had the same discussion about the middle portion of Multiverse of Madness. That's an angry segment.
Yeah.
That's
She-Hulk.
Yeah, that's an angry television show.
Yep.
The narrative thrust here, not the character thrust, the narrative thrust of this movie is pissy. It's angry at fans. And I'm not even, this is not me saying that fans are the best thing in the world. I know a lot of them suck.
But take this time to reach out to one of our good friends and contributors, Chris Bailey, and tell him that we love him.
Look, Bailey and I talked a little bit about this. He doesn't disagree with me. But he's, again, so what is our antagonist trying to do? He's trying to protect canon. And here's Miles going, screw you, no one tells me what my story is. So what we have here is angry fans, or fans in general, who care a lot about this. Writer going, screw you, I want to do whatever I want, and you can't stop me.
Yeah.
This is the thrust of the story. And again, I've personally seen more than enough angry movies lately. Please get over yourselves. How many? Look, man, you and I went through it's a Trumpy movie phase of critical review.
Yep.
We've done a bunch of these. You watched that stupid. I didn't watch it, thankfully. I might have burned something down, but you watched that stupid Charlie's Angels movie. That's an angry movie. Tell me it's not.
No, if you want, dark feminism more meets your criteria for angry movies.
Yeah, it did.
Charlie's Angels was more girls get it done. I saw the fucking movie.
I know. Look. Here's my other gripe with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you had done all that stuff to someone who isn't Patrick Stewart, I might have been better with it emotionally because it's Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, fair.
But again, like we've seen enough of these. I've seen enough of the TV shows that are just like, that are just pissy and whiny and writer. Who was that? There was that stupid one from the season 2 of The Witcher, where someone complained to the bard, like, I couldn't really follow your story because you were jumping around chronologically, and he went, well, you're clearly too stupid. I liked season 1 of The Witcher because I can follow different storylines, but trying to avatarize your criticism and then just insulting them that way is pathetic. And
yeah, there's a petulance that's currently that Hollywood is currently immersed in.
Dude, these are writers, usually writers. So, some of these are like directors as well. They're going that like, I am arting, respect my art, and then fans go, no, we don't like it. Here's why, and they go, well, screw you. I exist. I am out here. I am to be respected and lauded. And we're all rapidly getting to the point where I would not cross the street to piss on you if you were on fire.
I just put up a TikTok of this where and I can't remember where I said this, but I just kind of rewatched it again. Something along. I just put up the TikTok I just cut the TikTok of me and you talking about Boston Strangler, where we were saying how the movie's sort of inner monologue, the movie's narrative is essentially Keira Knightley's character going, you're wrong for being mad at me in the first place. I'm inherently right, and there is no counter. And you're a bad person for not agreeing with me. And that is and we talked about like that essentially being like Hollywood's entire position at this point.
Yep.
And you're right, it's in this movie too.
And again, like there's a lot. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of people who, I don't know if they were just blown away by the animation or if there's a lot of very warm, fuzzy feelings for the first one that I acknowledge the brilliance of the first one artistically. It did not move me. It moved other people, and God bless you. I'm not here to piss on your parade in that respect, but this one, I don't know, like that's what I got out of it. Like I got a lot of the frustration and anger from a giant chunk of the writing staff going on here. Like, and it's not entirely their fault. I hate to say it's adapting source material because it is drawing from different pieces of it in different respects.
It is a thankless job right now to take something that that fans enjoy and try to do not the force is female. Let's leave those idiots alone. But people that genuinely try to adapt something and make it palatable for an audience, and it gets soundly rejected. And then I think we've talked about this before. People are not just rejecting it. They're like making threats. They're saying they're bad people. And it's like, no, we did the best job we could with this. I'm sorry you didn't like it. I'm sorry it didn't meet, we didn't do the exact thing that you wanted, but we as artists are entitled to do artistic things with, the stuff you enjoy, but we were paid to do in the first place. And when I go back to like, this is really I hear what you're saying and I'm in agreement with you, but I'm going to take their side for just a second. I can see why they're pissed.
But if you
there's no winning outside of the paycheck you draw. There's no winning anymore.
Well, if I may.
Well, hang on. You either put out something that is an exact replica of what people like, and it becomes soulless, and you're just making widgets, or you actually
Or
try to
you're making a
create
Disney
art,
live action remake.
or you actually try to create art, and it's resoundingly rejected by a mass of people who have no like creative vision, you know, or allow for any kind of creative freedom. They wanted exactly what they wanted, and when they didn't get it, throw a tantrum. And I can tell you, like, as somebody who like
deals with a lot of people throwing tantrums,
you do after a while just get exhausted by it, to the point where like you don't want to do the job anymore. Like, it would be so much easier for most of these people to take on any number of projects in Hollywood that are not IP.
Here's the problem: like, they don't exist.
Well, and I was just about to say, the problem is everything is IP now because Hollywood is filled with cowards.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, if it was your 250 mil, if it was your $250 million, you might be a little bit cowardly.
Well,
too.
this does go to the other thing of, and we said this, I think, with either Fast X or maybe something before that. It might have been Guardians of the Galaxy, where we were like, you don't take a chance with $250 million. You do safe with $250 million. You want to do a fancy, you know, Cowboys Eating Pudding art project. You do that with $10 million. Oh, it was The Little Mermaid we said that about. Don't take a chance on the girl with no acting chops but can only sing on your $250 million Disney remake. Put her in a made-for-Hulu Black movie and see how she does first. Same thing here.
Yeah, very much the same principle. So that's kind of the long and the short of it for me. I disagree with where they cut it, which is a big problem. Again, I have issues around the ethics of the marketing. Like, again, you want to make part 1, I'm down. Most people are. Tell us that. Like, you mentioned your kids were pissed. I've seen, like, this is one of the bigger deals. It's not getting a lot of press, but if you kind of sift through the response and reaction stuff, like, there's a lot of people who are mentioning, like, either they knew enough to know, yeah, this was part 1, like they saw the early stuff that was promoting it, 2 years ago. That was like, hey, part 1, by the way, 2-parter. Or the guys are just too jaded to care, but they're like, them being around people who didn't know. There's a lot of I don't think the ending of this went over the way they expected it to. Let me just put it like that.
All right.
I'm just gonna say, you know what, you're entitled to your opinion, but I did not read any of that in this whole they're angry at the fans thing. I honestly thought it was just more playing around with the tropes of canon. I thought that there was humor in that, not a message. But
wait for part 2. I'm pretty sure I'm right, and we'll know. Look, this is why I say,
Alexis, I would tend to agree with you if I didn't see it in other places as well.
Okay, here's what's gonna prove if I'm right or wrong, and we'll have to wait a year to figure this out. But next year, when the entire problem of canon is Miguel O Hara's fault, I just want you to know. Like, I think that's where we're going here.
All right. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't think I was going to have a lot to say. Turns out I had somewhat a lot to say. But here's where I have a lot to say. And it's my favorite part of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
For shame, Disney. For shame. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, we get to talk about the beached whale.
Yep. All right. On a budget of $100 million, this thing has already made $221.8 million. All right. So, as of June 5th, 2023, in the year of our Lord, Spider-Man Across the Angryverse has grossed $133.7 million in the U.S. and Canada, and $88.1 million in other territories like China, for a worldwide gross of $221.8 million. In the US and Canada, Across the Spider-Verse released alongside The Boogeyman, which was initially projected to gross $80 million from over 4,000 theaters its opening weekend, with rival studios predicting it could reach 90. It made $17.35 million in Thursday night previews, the third best total for an animated film after The Lion King. $23 million in 2019, and Incredibles, $18.5 in 2018. Incredibles 2, rather. After making $51.7 million on Friday, including previews, the best first day of 2023 up to that point. Weekend estimates increased to 113 million. It went on to debut at 120.7 million, the second highest opening weekend total of 2023, behind Super Mario at 146.4 million, and the 8th best ever for an animated feature. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Watch this be the year where the two most highest grossing movies, the two films to make over $1 billion, are both animated.
Suck it, Amy Schumer.
Oh, because of Barbie? Is that why you're being different?
No, she's the one who at the Oscars talked about the animated films with Encanto. It's like, well, I've only seen that because my kids wanted to, and it made a big joke about how no one cares about animated films.
Oh, yeah. Amy Schumer can eat a dick, and I'm sure she has, given her sense of humor. All right. Number one movie of the weekend.
Humor is in air quotes when it comes to Schumer.
Was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. 120 million over 4,000 theaters. The Little Mermaid fell from 1 to 2. 56.7 dropped. That's slightly better than we predicted.
Well, it's not as steep as we predicted. However, it also opened softer than we predicted.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine
it's a certified bomb. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to get into all of this. Midnight's Edge did a really great series of videos on how basically The Little Mermaid made money in the US, but in the rest of the world, no one gives a shit. And this thing is a certified failure for Disney.
Oh, dude, again, like if you factor in, you have like a $250 million budget, probably over that because most movies go over budget. Plus 140 million or so. That's the number being floated for what they spent on marketing. You've now hit, congratulations, a $390 million investment.
Yeah.
You need 900 million to really kind of like you. This was supposed to be $1 billion movie. There's no other way to.
Andre from Midnight's Edge was saying this has to do Top Gun Maverick domestic.
Because there's no international box office.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and here's the thing. On average, the best movies domestically typically do American, North American box office, what, 5 to 7 on average?
No, that's actually aberrantly high, but
okay, 5 to 6. Like I'm talking like the hits.
Yeah. Okay, so you generally are going to get about half of your total take from the United States box office, generally.
All right, so you're asking for 5 to 6 domestic and then another 5 to 6 worldwide.
Yeah.
And worldwide it bombs so badly that now you need almost double what you would normally get domestic in order for this thing to cross $1 billion.
You would need 700 to 800 million domestically.
Yeah, there's no fucking way.
Nope.
There's no when this thing has already lost a little more than half its audience. There's no goddamn way this thing is making 800 million domestic.
So let's just, for the record, I mentioned this to you in the group chat the other day. Between this and Indy 5, which is going to be the bigger disappointment, what's Disney going to have to sell?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we joked about like Roland Emmerich murdered Lionsgate last year, and we have the running gag of former studio. I can't. What was it? What was it that? Oh, it was Warner Brothers that had like there's something like $1 billion write down because their movies had lost so much money. This is what led to.
Well, then there was whatever one Babylon just ruined the bottom line.
Yeah, Babylon canceled out Top Gun Maverick's take.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which we had a good laugh at. Anyway, moving on. The Boogeyman debuted at number 3 with 12 million. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 to 4. Fast X 2 to 5.
Oof.
Yeah.
You're talking. Hang on. Speaking of movies that are going to struggle, that are like seriously struggling financially, we need to have a look at Fast X.
Well, it's funny. They're talking about expanding because it's supposed to be the end of the Fast Saga is 2 parts. They were like, but no, these things are so popular and whatever else, we're going to expand this to 3. And it's like, you better fucking not stick conservatively to 2 parts because by the time you get to part 3, no one may see this movie. Go ahead and talk about that for a second. I apparently have to address a child.
All right, you go. I'm not going to make the joke because we're on Twitch and that might be taken poorly. But if you look at Fast X, I mean, the thing had a $340 million budget. That's before we consider advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Its worldwide box office at the moment sits at 660. That's another one of those movies, man. You spend that much, like you're gambling on getting to the billion mark. So if you spent 340 production, again, you're figuring 140 to 150 minimum for advertising. That's going to put you, right around the 500 million investment total.
Hey, let me ask you a question. A big conversation that we were having in 21 and 22 was how many movies were in the delay pile. Like, how many movies slated for 2020, 2021, 2022 got pushed a year or more later? Are we still digging out of the COVID pile?
Hang on.
Because I'm pretty sure Fast 9 and Fast 10 were both delayed due to various things, but one of which being COVID. I know Dead Reckoning was supposed to come out last year and it got pushed back. You know, James Bond got pushed back a zillion times for a variety of reasons.
I don't think Fast X suffered from that.
Okay. I know Fast 9 did. But that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, 9 definitely.
How much of what we're looking at is 2023 the last of the COVID pile?
One would certainly hope. Yeah, it looks like the last scripts for Fast X were turned in this year, give or take. So I don't think they had that problem. I don't think they had production setbacks because of it.
Excuse me.
But again, like that movie, it might get there. Fast X might, but it lost 60% of its audience first week to second week, and now you lose another 50% of that.
Right.
Like,
Super Mario.
That movie's struggling a little more than you thought.
Yeah. About My Father, 6 to 7. The Machine, 5 to 8. You Hurt My Feelings, 8 to 9. And Kandahar fell from 7 to 10. Past Lives debuted at 12. The Roundup, No Way Out at 14. Falcon Lake at 31. And that is the weekend that was. Worldwide, Super Mario is over $1 billion at number 1. Guardians is 783. We are finally into Doctor Strange territory at about
Guardian. You know, I think you and I both, like when we talked about Guardians, I think we both, was it you who said it was going to be somewhere in the low 8s?
Yeah.
As that looks to be about where it's going to end. Again, that's another one they wanted to do $1 billion, but it's going to be a decent enough hit.
Marvel, I mean, I don't want to, because we've had this conversation before about how many damaged brands are out there, but like Disney in total and then individually, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Pixar, do they have a brand that isn't tarnished at this point, that isn't completely damaged? No, the answer is no, it's not.
Yeah, again, so we're going to get to this in a second, but the other thing I asked last week, does Little Mermaid do more or less than Ant-Man and the Wasp, which petered out at 476?
Yeah. Fast X at 660. Ant-Man currently holding at number 4 with 476. John Wick, the little John Wick that could, 433 at number 5. And The Little Mermaid, 332 million, currently number 6.
Whale.
Yeah. Creed 3, 274. Spider-Man making its debut in the top 10 with 221 million at number 8. D&D at 208 at number 9. And then Scream 6 rounds out the top 10. And not a whole lot. I mean, I can't even really make a joke. Just the movies that have made over 100 million: Evil Dead Rise, Shazam, Pathan, and Detective Conan, and everything else is made less than 100 million and isn't really worth talking about. So,
you know what? Look, man, The Pope's Exorcist beat the Titanic re-release, so we're just going to call that a win.
All right, this Friday is Transformers. That'll win its weekend. The weekend
probably. Okay, you know what? That's the other thing I think we need to mention here.
Mm-hmm.
Between the long runtime and the abrupt cut for the sequel, I wonder how well this holds. It might be fine. The only thing
working in its favor is Sony doesn't have a dedicated streamer, so it doesn't have.
It'll be out for a while. It might have legs. Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, they tend to sell their shit to Netflix. Sony does, but I know that. You know that. Most people don't. And because, again, it's a Sony jam, and now people who really don't pay any attention, who kind of know that Marvel is Disney, might think it's going to be on Disney Plus. It's not. It's a Sony movie. Learn your mathematics from us, people. Mathematics. I've been watching a lot of Wu-Tang Clan lately. Learn your mathematics from the DMU Hollywood people. It's a Sony movie. It's not a Disney movie. And Sony does not have a dedicated streamer. They might be abiding by the 45-day window, but that can be unabided. And there's no incentive for Sony to pull this thing out of theaters anytime soon.
Depending on the check they get from...
So this might be one of the ones that goes against the grain, where people who are trained to wait for it to come on a streamer, since there's no dedicated streamer, people might be thinking, oh, I might only be able to see this in the movies if I want to see it anytime soon.
Again, that's possible. I am curious about the legs this thing has. There might be a second wave that was waiting for word of mouth. Might.
Yeah, maybe.
The other big caveat here is, I have to ask, do you plan on seeing this again in theaters?
Only because one of my girlfriends asked to see it, and since I slept through part of this, maybe. But other than that,
I want to go back and see it a second time.
Okay, but you unabashedly loved it. I would be going because someone in my life wants to go. If the question asked of me is, do I actively want to go see this thing a second time? The answer is no.
No, look, that was just an open question. Like, to anyone watching our review, feel free to chime in if you've seen it and plan on seeing it again. Again, if I'm wrong, so I'm just curious. I'm not predicting a giant catastrophic fall. This is just a movie that caught some people the wrong way. It's a little bit overlong for families to easily go see it again.
Yeah.
And
I went with a 9, 11, and 12-year-old, and none of them seemed like they were struggling with the runtime necessarily, but my kids are movie trained, and one of them's 11. So
we've been here since the Great Stone Age watching movies.
Yes, my children have been watching movies since the Stone Age.
I'm not going to say it.
Leave it alone. Let him be. He's 9.
I'm leaving it.
Stop bullying children.
No.
But I would tell you, like, for the families that go see a movie once a quarter, and they've got children between the ages of like 6 and 10. Yeah, this is going to be a rough watch. And God help you if you brought a child less than 6 to this thing. There's no way you got through it all. So
again, I'm curious to see what the numbers are. Again, not predicting a giant fall.
The Flash and Elemental come out the 16th. We're going to review Elemental on the 20th, which is the Tuesday after. And then we're going to review The Flash on the 27th, because that is the original date that I had it. And I'm mad, I tell you, that they moved The Flash from the 23rd to the 16th for no discernible reason that I could understand. So fuck DC and fuck Warner Brothers. I'm leaving it where it is. How do you like them apples? I could have done a double review. I could have, but fuck Warner Brothers. Leave the movies where they are.
Mark, you and I, our numbers are the only thing that's going to suffer from your tantrum. You do understand this.
I'm not doing it first. How about that? Me and Alexis are going to have a sexy day talking about Elemental as it proceeds to bomb and no one goes to see it.
Aren't I on that one too?
You are, but
okay.
But I'm throwing a tantrum right now, so.
Oh, so you want to boot me off? Of all the things you could boot me off of,
you're questioning my wisdom of. Look, a sane person moves the Flash into the Elemental spot because everyone
moves Elemental back a week. Yes, our Flash review is going to be dead on arrival because no one's going to care anymore.
I don't care. They did me wrong. I'm doing it this way.
Fine. Our intro for that, your TikTok for that movie review, the first 10 minutes is you explaining why we're doing this, why you know it's a mistake, and why you don't care.
Yep. Why I'm running up the down staircase knowingly.
All right, fair enough.
I know Alexis is just chomping at the bit to yell at both of us. So go ahead, Alexis. Get your comment out.
You kidding me? I've been playing Words with Friends while you two have been going on about this. I know when I can shut up and just step out of the conversation.
Perfect. That's what I was looking for. All right. After that, it's Indiana Jones.
Yeah, like Mark, I've been doing this long enough. I am fully aware that there are certain times it's like, okay, I'm just gonna go pull out my phone and play a game while you two just act like a couple of beta rays biting each other's reflections.
Look, man, I know I'm with you. I know the times when it's like, all right, I'll go make a sandwich.
Yeah.
which I did on
Um,
this show once.
All right. Indiana Jones is the 30th, and while it's going to bomb hard, we will be reviewing it on July 3rd.
It probably wins its weekend. Like it's gonna bomb, but it's probably gonna be #1 that weekend.
No, for sure. The 7th is a bye week. We'll be doing Flamin' Hot, which is direct to Hulu.
That's
And
not
then
me,
Mission-
is it?
And then Mission Impossible, which you have said is probably the only movie not animated that's probably going to make $1 billion this year, comes out the 14th.
It's got a chance.
Oppenheimer and Barbie come out the
if
20th.
Top Gun hadn't done as well as it did, I would say Mission Impossible is going to bomb. But considering how well it did, I think it laid the carpet for the Mission Impossible to do well.
The 21st is
It's hard to express how much Top Gun Maverick did for Tom Cruise's late career. Like the way that was handled by him and everyone else, it engendered so much goodwill.
Yeah.
Like there's stories out right now about him bullying theater owners. No, did you hear this? I'm not
No,
kidding.
go ahead.
So apparently, again, reports, grain of salt, but the reputable places are reporting this. Like he's pissed that all the IMAX screens are being taken up by Barbie and Oppenheimer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's almost insisting that they change the release date for those
Right.
movies. So
Any,
the Top Gun,
theater,
so
any
that,
theater that kicks Christopher Nolan's filmed in IMAX Oppenheimer off an IMAX screen needs to be fired from their job.
hey,
Agreed.
I'm just saying. Like
I understand Tom Cruise might be the last star in Hollywood left, and when he dies, there's none left. But
Pretty much.
everyone collectively needs to tell Tom Cruise to go fuck himself.
But yeah, he's
you see freaking Oppenheimer in Barbie. I don't know if you really want to see it in IMAX, but just
No,
based
that's
on what
not
we've seen with
necessary to see in
you
IMAX.
don't need that much paint in your life.
if you see a movie about the building of the atomic bomb on an IMAX screen,
Dude, that includes Nolan not wanting to use CGI for the explosions because they don't it comes across as very artificial.
Well, the other side of
He blew stuff, dude. He blew stuff up in IMAX to
Well, that's what I'm
replicate.
beyond all of that, like he shot the movie. Two things you got to know about this Oppenheimer movie. One, as we've talked about on this show, Universal gave away the store to get Christopher Nolan. We won't again repeat the fact that here's everything you've asked for and more. What
So
crowd
please
pleasing are you
tell
gonna
us.
give us?
Tell me what giant blockbuster you're going to give us for our first movie. Like I'm going to hire Cillian Murphy to play Oppenheimer in a biopic that's almost exactly 3
and the
hours
Universal
long.
exactly. Those are all words, but I don't understand how they fit together. What are you telling me?
Look, he said, you gave me my check, I'll make you a movie.
Yep.
And they kind of went, okay, but can't you sell us on it? No. See this clause? Creative control.
So, but the other side of that is,
he gets to go. That doesn't work for me.
Part of
brother.
the contract, like they can't kick him off IMAX screens. Like Tom Cruise might be like, listen, you motherfuckers, I'm goddamn Maverick. You're gonna do what I tell you. They're just like, just send him a copy of the fucking contract, please, because I can't argue with this lunatic.
yeah, it's like, okay, we either get sued or we have the Church of Scientology breathing down our backs.
Yeah, that's just Scientology. It's not powerful. Anyway, listen.
They're scary, but they're not going to cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Well-
And then the following week is Haunted Mansion. I mean, that'll win its weekend. It actually got some pretty decent buzz. After that is Meg 2, The Trench. And then
you know what? I've come around to Meg 2. Like, bring on the schlock, man. We could use. How long's it been, Mark, since we've reviewed a genuine like schlocky kind of movie?
I
Been
hate
quite a
to
while.
say, I think the
Okay,
last
there.
schlocky movie we reviewed was, oh my god, I can't even remember the name of it. The alligator movie,
Oh, Crawl.
Crawl.
Yeah.
I think that was the last schlocky movie we reviewed
Well,
on
no,
the
I
show.
think Cocaine Bear fits that bill. But anyway,
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
fair enough.
Yeah,
Cocaine
from
Bear
that-
hadn't sucked.
we had The Last Voyage of the Demeter and Gran Turismo. And then finally ending the summer, thank the maker, is Blue Beetle, which I'm slowly. Alexis, you say, especially if you go back and listen to some of our shows, you say that I broke you. I've changed you as a woman. You are corrupted. Which is
Isn't that what all of your girlfriends say?
You're not kidding. Word for word. But don't think that this is a one-sided relationship, my love. You have gotten in me. Yes, you have gotten inside of me. You're in my blood. And I say
the only one in the network who's only in an abusive one-way relationship with Mark is me. Everyone else has had some kind of
mutually abusive. But no, if I could stop doing sexual innuendo for just a moment. you were like all up on Blue Beetle, because you like all the high IP comic book stuff typically. And I could not have been less enthusiastic about Blue Beetle. I was like, that was one where it was on the schedule because it's a comic book movie, but no interest at all. I saw the second trailer for it, and I'm like, okay, if I didn't have kids and I didn't have a podcast, I probably still wouldn't go see it in the movies. But now I'm not unenthusiastic about it. I see why you're excited for it, and I'm kind of with you. The kid playing Blue Beetle, who's Miguel from Cobra Kai, he has shit tons of charisma.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to see him in this role. I'm excited, because representation matters. I'm excited to see like big. Shut up.
Why must you spew lies, Mark?
Well,
Big
okay,
budget.
I'm mostly interested because this is not the Ted Kors Blue Beetle. This is the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. This is a totally different character.
Well, I what I was saying was I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see like this big Latino superhero movie, celebration of Latino culture, but also the superhero genre and melding those two things together, which is what the movie is. So like I'm up for it. Like I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna be excited. I'm being made to see that the same day as Strays because God hates me and so do my children. But
Yeah.
Who's making you see Strays?
fucking kids.
Why are you taking your kids to that R-rated raunch fest?
I mean, it's dogs. Like, what do you?
That's not the point.
They've lived with me for 9 to 12 years. They've heard curse words. Hello,
It,
apple of my eye. Come here.
it looks amazing.
That's right. You tell them. Now go the fuck away.
No, like I was just trying to say, I'm excited
That's
because
awful.
I've learned more about Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle through his
Mhm.
work with the Teen Titans and reading those books, and he's a really fun character when balancing off of Damian Wayne and all of that. So I am excited to see that character.
I'm up for this movie. We'll see how it goes. And that's the end of the summer. All right. With that said, here we go with the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Can't knock the hustle, baby. 96 on the tomato meter, 96 audience score. Universally beloved.
I mean, look, for all the negatives that I think we all see.
Hey, The Idol season 1 is 27% rotten. Just saying.
Ooh, Small Light's still 100%. Rock on.
Go ahead, Robert.
You referenced my impending execution, and my brain shut off for a minute there.
I prefer to think of it as my birthday present.
Notice he did not refute what I said. He just changed the lingo. It's not you're not gonna die. It's I prefer to think of it as.
Look, my wife did not make a big deal out of me for my birthday, so this is you making up for that for her. You're making a big deal of my birthday for me by reviewing The Idol with me. You're making it about me.
How many logical fallacies did you just jump through?
A Circus du Soleil full. All right. The critical consensus written by ChatGPT says, just as visually dazzling and action-packed as its predecessor, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse thrills from start to cliffhanger conclusion. I'm convinced.
Thrills is a bit much.
AI.
Oh, speaking of the Easter eggs, actually, somebody asked me this on my wall earlier, and I didn't have an answer for him. Did either of you see the Japanese Spider-Man in the crowds and the scenes at all?
Can I ask you a question, Alexis, my love?
Of course.
How long have you been doing this podcast? Don't answer that. That's not the question. In all the years that you've been doing this podcast with us, have you not learned to not ask the two of us that question? We don't notice shit.
I
notice everything.
I was gonna
It's
say,
kind of my
hello,
curse.
bombastic bagman down there. I thought maybe there was a chance. Somebody asked me if the Japanese Spider-Man made a cameo, to which I said this movie is quite literally the definition of blink and you will miss it.
For the record, you mean the live-action Japanese Spider-Man?
I'm assuming that's what he meant.
Might have been in there somewhere. Again, I didn't see it, so doesn't mean it's not there. Means I didn't see that one. But
I would like to talk now for the next hour about how I felt about Miles' mother talking to him. Never mind.
You'd like to talk for the next hour about how emotionally damaging it was to see a functioning marriage.
Oh,
Zing. Shut up.
Wickedness never was happiness, Mark.
All right. Christy Lemire of Film Week, KPCC, NPR Los Angeles top critic. It's really impressive how this movie has its cake while eating it too.
Okay.
Wildly unhelpful.
1, unhelpful. 2, that's not actually the expression. I hate what we did to that one because the current expression doesn't actually make sense. If you say I want to have my cake and eat it too, you can't eat it unless you have it. The original expression was to keep your cake and eat it. Like, we've destroyed it linguistically through generations of just doing it badly. This is how irregardless gets in the dictionary, as meaning literally the opposite of what it should mean. I hate you all.
As you should. Charles Solomon of Film Week, KPCC, NPR Los Angeles as well. Not top critic. Apparently he's like an intern. I don't know. I'm reading this one for Alexis's benefit, by the way. This may be the most visually flamboyant animated film since Yellow Submarine. The film kind of sprawls over its runtime, but the animation is very exciting.
Has he actually ever seen Yellow Submarine?
Yellow Submarine.
We all live.
I did not need a Beatles reference to make this experience worse. Thank you very much for that.
You know, okay, I adore Yellow Submarine, the film, but it's not really sprawling animation, though it's more sprawling storytelling than anything else.
Rachel Ho of Exclaim. Surely even Mr. Scorsese will delight in this act of cinema. Ma'am!
Boy.
First of all, if Scorsese sees this, I'll eat my hat and half a child.
Which child? Wait, which child?
Yeah, which child? That's kind of
my
important.
business. Stay out of my business.
I'd say that's actually important information.
The fuck out of here. Scorsese ain't seeing no goddamn Spider-Man cartoon.
Scorsese doesn't know how to have fun.
Scorsese's busy doing something that theoretically matters, whereas this person is writing for Exclaim.
Matt Hudson needs to get fucking control of himself. What I watched tonight manages to top its predecessor narratively and technically whilst laying a strong claim to being possibly the best comic book movie of all time. Sir, The Dark Knight still exists.
Okay.
Any number of comic book movies are better than this unfinished film.
I have heard arguments that this is the best Spider-Man film, and if you want to make that argument, there is room for that. But no, not even I, who adore this movie, will not call this the best comic book movie of all time. Dark Knight and Infinity War will always top that.
There's,
I want to say X-Men 2.
That's the one everyone wanks over. For me, like, again, Logan still exists, and Logan is a
phenomenal
Logan, piece of filmmaking.
I mean, look, people, it has its problems, and certainly people have its problems with it. It's not a crowd pleaser, but Watchmen, I tell you, Watchmen still.
And unfortunately, there has been a lot of people pointing out the flaws in Watchmen that we've realized were probably somebody telling Zack Snyder, maybe you should control yourself just the teeny tiny littlest bit.
I would still tell you it's a better made film than this one. It's just it's not crowd pleasing. It doesn't have fun elements to it, but that's kind of Watchmen for you.
Yeah, no, I love The Watchmen. I just also have gone to realize watching it again, knowing now what I know about Zack Snyder. It's like, my God, somebody should have reined him in while we had the chance.
Jeffrey M. Anderson of Combustible Celluloid. Fucking names of these things. But does it work? You bet it does.
Insanely unhelpful.
And Bob the Builder has changed professions, I see. He learned to type.
Dana Hahn Klein of What We're Watching podcast.
Oh, no, it's We're Watching What podcast.
Yes, We're Watching What podcast.
Oh, come on. That's a cute title.
So how much did you spend on Cameo to get what's your face with the terrible voice to record the intro for your podcast?
A brilliant feat of artistry that builds upon the spirit of the first film and elevates it. The story, visuals, performance, score, and action will keep you on the edge of your seat or asleep, as I was.
No, look, man, the score is fine. It's nothing memorable.
Dun,
The
dun,
perf-
dun,
Dun, dun,
dun,
dun,
dun, dun,
dun.
dun.
The performances are fine, but they're not like exceptional.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to join this man and this lamb in holy bonds of matrimony.
Oh, you found someone.
How you found your future ex-wife? The future ex, Mrs. Robert Winfree, Tanya Lamb of Lola Lamb Chops. Robert's beloved
Can I
says,
just say, I don't know why you decided the wedding march, but the fact that you both started doing it.
did I mention I corrupt everyone I touch?
And yet here I stand, actually going back to church weekly.
to be clean, I would presume. Well, why are you here again? I hit Tuesdays with Mark.
You are more right than you know.
Robert's biography, Tuesdays with Mark, written by Robert Winfree, a story of laughter, tears, and vomit. Anyway, moving on.
It's a short book, and it comes with a how-to manual.
With beautiful animation, exciting storylines, and messages about friendship and destiny, Spider-Man Across the
And looks like we lost Mark.
There he goes.
Oh, here I am.
You had a little thing there. Don't worry about it. That's not worth responding to.
Okay, moving on. Let's see here. Not a lot of we found a rotten one. Mark Jackson of Epoch Times. Ever visit folks who suffer from extreme clutter with actual pathways around islands of books and dirty laundry? Oh, he's been to my house. Standing 4 feet high.
I've installed home security systems for these people. I know well what he's describing.
It would take 10 pages to define the plot here. This is a review for non-Spider-Man expert 40-somethings and up.
That's a very unhelpful pull from his review. I'm just going to phrase it. And no, you don't need 10 pages to describe the plot. Mine took a while because I was having fun with it. I could have done that much faster.
I was going to say, I understand the idea of saying I'm reviewing this and I'm not a huge Spider-Man, but that just comes across as incredibly petty.
Yeah, there's a lot of I didn't want to do this and that. And
yeah.
Come on, man. I don't want to do a lot of this stuff, and I at least have the professionalism to show up and dress up my crapping on something.
Speaking of dressing up crap, Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies.
I was curious where you were going to go with that specifically. And okay, fair enough.
Not nearly as fresh and efficient as its predecessor.
True.
An overly long running time. You're adorable, Kevin Carr. Please don't change. Runtime, you fucking retard. With an overlong running time and frenetic animation, it's still fun and innovative with a feel that it was spawned from the love of comics.
You know, there's a degree of truth to that. That's, again, like the grammar needs help and whatnot, but he's more right than he's wrong.
Let's go find some more negatives. I mean,
They're
the positives
very
are, well, the thing is that the positives are all saying the same thing over and over and over again. Let's find something different.
I'm trying. Quit yelling at me.
They all got the same ad copy and just kind of bleh.
No, majority of them.
Future ex Mr. Hejna, Johnny Gates Monica, fanboys of the universe. Equally adept. What?
Usually you say that about one of the 3 or 4 reviewers that I've openly admitted I follow. I don't know anything about this dude.
No, but I want you guys to marry him.
He just chooses randomly sometimes.
I have like an Indian couple. I have decided to match Johnny Gaze Monic with Alexis Hejna because I feel like that's what the universe needs, at least for a little while.
And years from now, a pressed lotus flower will arrive on your doorstep, and that will be the indicator that it's time for your arranged marriage.
Yeah, let your husband know. The cult has gotten more complicated. Equally adept at phenomenal action scenes and deep metaphors on what it means to be a superhero, both in universe and out. It raises the bar even higher for what a superhero film or any animated film of any genre at all can be.
I assume that the light you see is the open mouth of one of the directors after you shoved your head that far up of his head.
All right. Well, as my beloved Alexis Hejna has required of me to find negatives, I have found one. Ty Burr of Ty Burr's Watch List.
Top critic.
Top critic. Sounds like something you'd get from the federal government, but let's move on. I knew we'd get a sequel eventually, but I didn't expect them to suck most of the joy out of it.
Ow.
This is a much more melancholy piece than the first one. That's by design. I don't think it was sucking the joy out of the whole experience, unless he's referencing. Look, man, there's some visually great action stuff here, but it's all kind of lifeless. Like, there's no. That's one of the things about this movie. Anytime we get into the action and whatnot, there's almost no tension because there's almost no stakes. Like, we all know what's going to and not going to happen.
Right, because I give Alexis an inordinate amount of shit. Like, give you. I talked last week. I give you a ration of shit all the time, but you have Alexis Hejna a fair amount of shit for a variety of reasons. So I'm gonna read this next one for her, but I really want to read the one after it. So
of course,
I'm only reading this for your pleasure and enjoyment, Alexis.
Oh, thank you. So kind.
You're welcome. I take care of the women in my life. Yasser Medina of Cinema Aficionados.
Cinema Aficionados.
Thank you. It has a certain energy on the visual part that is adorned with a splash of contrast and flashing colors, but whose adventure sometimes stumbles through a dull and humdrum multiverse of recycled Spider-Man.
I am going to mention this very briefly. If there's a downfall, if there's a place where this movie really stumbles conceptually, they don't do a whole lot with the different Spider-Man. Like, you have a couple of fun
they might as well have been goons in a Batman 60s show.
Yeah.
I thought they did fine with the amount that they did. I mean, they can only have so many that are just identical copies of Peter Parker in a different suit that you downloaded from the Spider-Man game.
You know what it reminded me of? The beginning of the Lego Batman movie where they're just naming Batman villains. As funny as it was, because they went deep with, like, Condiment Man and shit like that. You'll notice
it's Condiment King. Get it right?
No. Condiment Dude. Don't correct me.
Pretty sure he lives at just the condom depot.
Yeah. On his shorts.
I referenced something Mark enjoyed.
Yes, you did. I remember, like I said, the Lego Batman. Like, the funny thing was, it was this unexpected laundry list of Batman rogues galleries that went from the Joker to the absurd. And then all that happens with any of them is Batman hits him once or twice. That's it. That's the whole sequence. So that's kind of what that whole thing where he's in the Spider-Man headquarters. That's what it reminded me of, for better or for worse. All right, last one. We're gonna end with one of Robert's many ex-wives, Carla Renata of the Curvy Film Critic.
I'm fortunate you're so bad at social media. There's a decent
people don't reach out to us.
There's a decent chance if you were more adept or more persistent with it, you would just tag all these people and say, "I'm marrying you off to this guy."
There's a Mormon in Utah who's persnickety that I'd like to introduce you to. Come with me. Anyway, the future ex-Mrs. Winfree, Carla Renata, the scene stealer, because of course she says this. Of course she does. Why would Carla Renata say anything else? The scene stealer was Jessica Drew, voiced by the hilariously gifted Issa Rae. Rae's addition to the franchise alongside Academy Award winner Daniel Kaluuya is pure magic and massively entertaining. Visually stunning animated kaleidoscope of color.
Your scene stealer had less than 5 minutes of screen time.
And I'm pretty sure the scene stealers were either Hobie Brown or... Okay, forgive me. I'm calling him Spider-Man India because I cannot pronounce the character's actual name. But those two were the scene stealers.
Okay, a year or two ago, there's no way you would have fucking said that. And a year or two from now, you would have been like, Dot India Spider-Man.
What? I loved the scene with the whole like, I love chai too. Chai tea means chai. Do you want some coffee? Coffee also with your... Actually, fun fact, I also found out that chai is Romanian for tea as well. So whenever someone says chai tea, even my husband does that little tick thing of like, he just said tea twice.
Future ex Mr. Hejna, Doug Walker of Channel Awesome. We're at a point once more where animation is doing what live action can't. The future of cinema is in the Spider-Verse.
God, I hope not.
No, but I do like what he points out about the future with animation. Again, it's going back to what a lot of us have been saying with the whole "fuck you, Amy Schumer" thing. People have looked down on animated films for so long because when they look at them, they think it's all Disney little kids stuff. And yeah, like you pointed out, Mark, two of the highest grossing films of this year are animated films. Animation needs more respect.
Look,
I
if you've never
appreciate.
said anything that I've agreed with, it's that. It's
Yeah.
just because something is animated doesn't make it Best Picture worthy. Robert, you were starting to say something.
No, just agreeing with it. Like, animation's a legitimate film medium. You can tell wonderful stories that way, and if you dismiss it out of hand, you are screwing only yourself out of the experiences.
All right, I think because I was doing it. I said I wanted to end 2-1, but I had to read Carlo Renata, and then I had to read one of Alexis's husbands. But I think that's it. Not really seeing a whole lot else here that jumps out at me. So, or any of our other great friends in the critic verse. So that's it. That is our review of Spider-Man Across the Universe singing Beatles songs, because we all live in a yellow submarine with Alexis Hejna.
Again, have you seen the film Yellow Submarine?
Yes, I have. I also have a wife that likes the Beatles. All right, next week or yesterday, Jesse and I wrapped up our review of Wu-Tang Clan, Wu-Tang, an American Saga.
It stinks.
Shut up. This Thursday, we have a double shot of movies that don't suck and some that do. On Thursday, we have the interview with Patrick Ray, Sarah McGuire, Megan Flynn of They Will Wait in the Dock, where you can pull your penis out and they'll put you in the dock. And then on Friday, it's their review of Inside and Fast X. With The Flash coming out the 16th because God hates me. Remember we used to say Mark schedules, God laughs?
We say Mark schedules and studio executives laugh.
That too. So
God weeps.
So we got an Everyone Loves a Bad Guy for The Flash's Rogues Gallery on the 10th, and then
A pretty terrible podcast.
and then on the 11th, myself and I believe Pat Mullen at the time did a tribute to Prince when he passed away. We're going to re-air that on June 11th.
Yeah, that was you. Yeah, that was you and Pat.
Yep, not Robert Cooper. That he was on the Voltron shows. Next week,
part of the first two, I think that was it. Like, I don't take my credit when I suffered.
On the 12th of June, myself and Jesse will be doing the last of our trilogy of metal comics, looking at War, Orgasmageddon. That was fun. And then at night, you get a double dose of me and Jesse. We're heading back to the Treme with the People Sachet. We're doing seasons 3 and 4 because 4 was like 3 or 4 episodes long. And then we're back here on DMV.
Was it ended due to a writer's strike or something?
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened. But that's why we're combining those two as we continue down from the corner to the deuce. And then we're back here a week from tonight for Transformers Rise of the Beast Wars. So come back for that. Alexis Hejna, show us where you pissed from. Oh, wait, hang on. Before you do, a week from Thursday, I'm doing a special noon show with myself and Jason Teasley. We did Anaconda. Now we're doing Lake Placid. Movies 1 through 4. So I've actually seen Lake Placid at least once. I got to rewatch it again, and then I got to watch the other 3 pieces of garbage. But yes, we are doing a long road to ruin for the Lake Placid series because that's the kind of thing that Jason Teasley and I like to do. All right, Alexis Hejna, show us where you pissed from, baby.
All right. Well, yeah, it looks like I'm not coming back here if I'm reading this correctly. You've got me on for both Elemental and The Flash, correct?
Yes, unless you don't want to be on either or both or one of them. No, I don't have you on for The Flash. I have you on for Elemental.
Okay.
Did you want to be on The Flash?
How many people do we have currently on there?
Currently just me and Robert grabbing each other's wieners.
There will be no wiener grabbing.
That you know of.
We'll talk later, Mark, if you
No.
want me on that or not.
It is entirely up to you, baby doll.
Okay. So yeah, I got that. TV party tonight is kind of not really doing that much right now until Yeah, actually, I don't think I've got any TV reviews coming up anytime soon,
Is it
do
just
I?
not nerd shows, or you just don't have interest in, or there's just like people aren't interested in doing anything?
There's just not that much to review right now.
There's plenty of things to review. The world is loaded with television shows. My question to you is there anything that you wanted to review and people just didn't, or there's nothing you want to review?
Yeah, I wanted to review A Small Light. I tossed that out there and no one bit.
And you proceeded to get deafening silence.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. You have to shame, and you have to beg, and you have to cajole, and you have to manipulate people into doing what you want them to do. Have I told you that Robert's going to review The Idol with me?
Yeah, the emotional manipulation that took. He seriously said, someone review The Idol with me. No one said anything. So he said, Robert, come here. You have to look at this. Look at this. I'll send you links. You have to read this, and then you have to
I literally was the guy that fell in the water, and came up with the magic ring. It was like, look, it's my birthday. Look, it's my birthday. Give it to me. And Robert's like, no, I don't want to give you The Idol. I'm like, no, it's my birthday. Give it to me. That's how that went.
And then he went, come on, do it. And I said, no, I don't want to review filth. It's just stupid, depressing, pathetic. I don't want to review that. He went, come on, it's my birthday and no one else is going to do it. If no one else loves me and you don't love me, then what am I even doing on this stupid ball of rock hurtling its way through space?
Small caveat. There's a small piece of information. I could have gotten Jesse to do it, but I wouldn't do that to him. I will, however, do it to you.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Ooh, I saw you age.
You're gonna, Mark, you and I have done maybe 3 podcasts in our entire almost decade of doing this, where I've genuinely been grumpy. Or I've genuinely been in a bad mood.
Yep.
We might be adding another one to that list.
All right. We are mansplaining all over Alexis's face here. Go ahead, Alexis.
All right. So, yes, as far as the things that actually do pay my bills, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. Coming up this Saturday, we are going to be downtown Kansas City for Pride Fest, handing out free Pride pins. These are handmade pins made from rainbow Scrabble tiles. I love doing this. We did it last year. I made as many as I could. This time I made so many more. So if you're going to be at Pride Fest in downtown Kansas City, be on the lookout for a girl with orange and green hair. I know that doesn't exactly narrow it down quite that much, but that's as best as I can do right now. And as far as our shows, at the end of June, we will be heading to the Greater Austin Comic-Con. This is a show we've done several times. I love it. We're also going to be traveling to that convention with another artist, a local author, Aaron Hollingsworth. He is going to be accompanying us and putting his books out on our table with us. So if you are in the Austin area, swing by. You may not only get some beautiful handmade jewelry, you may get some awesome new reading material. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our shops are fully stocked on Etsy and handmade at Amazon. That is Honeysuckle Rose Creations. And I should add, for those who are a fan of the Spider-Verse, we do have a ton of Spider-Verse themed jewelry. We have pieces celebrating Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, and a collection of others, including a hairbreadth that I recently redesigned and removed silk from and actually added Spider-Punk. Been a fan of his before he appeared in this movie, so
why would you do
yes,
Cindy
yeah,
Moon
Alexis,
like
the
that?
original Green Day fan. Go ahead.
now that's it. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic.
Robert Winfree, show everyone your dingling and where you pissed
Oh.
from.
I'm not gonna do that.
My dingling, Robert's dingling. We
That's
want
enough
you
of
to
that.
Play with our dinglings. Go ahead. God damn it, stop
And here comes the hook from the Apollo Theater.
that.
I'll be back here
so
next
sick of this life. Sorry, go ahead.
some days. I'll be back next week for Transformers, Rise of the whatever.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right.
You breathing okay over there?
I'll be all right.
Or you won't. That's kind of a binary equation
At
there.
this point, dying on a podcast is about the right way to go for me.
You really do that to me? You just die on the air? Make me watch that.
I mean, that'd be the only way people in my life would actually pay attention to me.
Mark, you know I pay attention to you.
That's true.
I constantly reply when you send me stuff because I know if you don't, it bothers you.
Unfinished plugs.
All right. I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling for 411mania.com. This week, so tomorrow, Thursday, will be AEW's Fusion, which is running now that Underground is wrapped up. It's run on Reels. Now they're back on Fusion, so I'm doing that. WWE SmackDown on Friday, if you're interested. And the UFC 289 is this coming Saturday. They're back in Canada. I'll steal your pronunciation there because it's kind of fun to say it incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the old CND Republic, we've got Amanda Nunes and Irene Aldana. It's not a great main event, but Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira are going to fight, and that better hold up. If something happens to that fight, that's not going to be good. If you want a full preview of that card, as well as a review of last week's UFC on ESPN 46, I host the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. It goes up Monday morning, very early Monday morning usually. So get your week started with me talking about the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts, if you're so inclined. That's wherever you can find podcasts. You can find me over there talking. And yeah, next week, Transformers. I saw a clip of a review for this particular Transformers movie, Mark. It went as follows. So we finally know what a Transformers movie would be like if you remove the military, like the military rah-rah, the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, and the hatred for your audience. It turns out pretty good.
Isn't it amazing what happens when you get rid of Michael Bay?
Yeah, it becomes less fun. And on that note,
tell you what, ask me about the world in a couple of weeks. I might have something planned, and we'll see just how much better things get.
And on
now if something happens to him, I'm gonna look really bad.
And on that mild threat of terrorism, be well.
Terrorism? It's just violence, not terrorism. Don't.
Be well, be safe, and behave.